always been intrigued by your, well, I hate to use the word technique. Sometimes it seems to have, you know, it goes out of style even. But it is apparent to me that there is so much knowledge in the way that you construct a painting, so much, I don't know, just give me a little information about the techniques, the method maybe that you employ when you approach a painting. I mean, in here we had, you know, beginning plans. Is that how you usually start?
In fact, I believe about paintings what Edward Albee said about poems, that a painting should not mean but simply be. I put a lot into the paintings. I bring a lot to the paintings. But the painting is the result of all of that. And what the viewer takes away from the painting, or what the painting gives to the viewer, in the case of someone living with the painting on a daily basis, is between the viewer and the painter.
Mm-hmm.
There's a conduit, there's a communication between me and the viewer, but it's an open-ended conversation.
There's just so much more to it than specific individual parts that you put into it. It exists in its own right in a way.
That's exactly, it's like a person.
Mm-hmm. Great complexity.
You bring a child into the world, the child goes out and does many, many things. Some of them we've had some influence on, some entirely of their own making. But that's the way a painting is. You bring a painting into the world, you send it out there, and it has its own life and its own connection with people and with the world.
Mm-hmm. Between the like shadows in the landscape and lines within the architecture.
The way that horizon does that,
yeah,
that's fairly
a
conscious thing, that wasn't an accident. On the other hand, if I want to create a starker contrast, I'll do just the reverse. Break it up as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm. But I like the way the landscape exists by itself, but then also can be viewed as part of the fabric of the whole thing. Part of the modernist principle of flat space.
That's where it pains me when people accuse me of just being a traditional painter.
Ron, could you talk a little bit about the industrial type structures that you use, and are they created in your mind? Are they actual places? And that kind of working with and working against the landscape that we view through those spaces. Can you talk a little bit about that?
A set of metaphors. The architecture works as a metaphor for all kinds of man-made constructs like governments and economies and philosophies and religions and organizations of all kinds that are often a great deal less than we give them credit for being. And the architecture kind of works in that exact same way. It seems so solid. So architectonic, and yet if you try to examine it closely, you'd see that it's full of flaws and tricks and lies and deceits and conceits, and it is indeed a great deal less than it appears to be. Nature and the landscape, on the other hand, is a metaphor for all things good in the world. Even down to the wet painted floor is a metaphor for life. That's the way life is. It's often, you're often caught off guard and on slippery footing, and the distance between where the viewer is stationed in any one of my paintings and the doorway out which she might escape is fraught with danger. It is slippery and wet and uphill, and life itself.
And then often it appears to be just a sheer drop off the edge on the other side.
It's not that you could just walk out into nature. You might have to climb down or fly down, or it may not be as attainable as it seems, as you would like it to be anyway.
Or hang on to the non-existent door jamb. There's nothing to protect us from that exterior.
It's all just an illusion.